This review will take a quick look at the Zodiac killer and will address the issue, can he be identified or even caught if he's still alive today? And he operated in California in the 1960s, and it's believed he started operating as early as 1962. They were able to connect him to a crime in 1963 where two youths went to the beach one day, and they were gunned down, and they've been able to connect that to him, and that's Robert Domingos and Linda Edwards. And he operated in the latter part of the 1960s in California, and he corresponded with law enforcement as late as 1974 and just disappeared. And the case is known, as you see on the screen here, as the Ace of Cases, a case that was just mysterious until this day is unsolved. And let me get a little more background on here. One moment, please. And that's not enough for the era of the 1960s was a different era, long before cell phones, the internet, cable television, and it was here's an old newspaper from that time frame. Assassin kills Kennedy. Lyndon Johnson sworn in. Jack Kennedy was president from 1960 to 63, and was assassinated in 63. The same year they know the Zodiac began operating, and it was long before forensics or any stuff like that. So it was current technology, current forensics is light years ahead. And could this work in the case of the Zodiac? It remains unclear. Now, one way is they actually could solve the case is for the simple reason somebody knows who he is. Okay, somebody could call LE law enforcement and give the name of the person. For example, they could find stuff in an attic, or they just know who he is through the process of putting enough information about the sketch and his activities, and they could identify him. Like I said, till this day, he's never been identified, and one phone call could do that. So he could be identified in that capacity. Okay, another way is through detective work. They just through the process of processing leads, they actually eventually could lead to identification. Even today, as the case has been closed, but it recently been still open. They opened it just recently. And let me get some other stuff on the screen here. One moment, please. Let's see. There's a kind of a still shot of his activities. He would approach youths as they were parked in isolated areas and dispose of them. He used a gun, and that's kind of a clip of what how he operated. A still shot of how he operated. And you can see the old-fashioned car, and he had a flashlight with him. Sometimes the youths thought that he was a police officer. They were going to get their wallets out and stuff like that. And let me get different screen on here. One moment, please. And here's how he operated in San Francisco. He killed a taxi driver, and that's a still shot from a movie about the case. And across the street from this shooting, three youths saw him, and that's how they were able to produce a sketch with the police officer that arrived at the scene. Okay, and in this instance, they think they have his fingerprints from here, but they're not completely sure though. And he corresponded with law enforcement, newspapers and law enforcement via mail over 20 times. So they're trying to get his DNA from vintage cases. Now let me give you an example of what forensics consist of. One moment, please. Here's a... I get this on the screen here real quick.
Forensic science can involve absolutely anything in everyday life. The main sorts of things I suppose we spend our time doing are things like body fluids and tissues with DNA associated with them. Obviously fingerprints are really important as well. Textile fibres from clothing and other furnishings, glass and paint and other types of particulates. Mobile phones and other digital media are increasingly important. Any kind of trace, we can get involved in analysing and comparing, and then working out what it's likely to mean in the context of the case. One of the most interesting kinds of evidence is textile fibres, because not only do they come in a wide variety of different types and colours and so on, so there can be...
And that's a quick review of how contemporary DNA or contemporary forensics works. I don't want to get into too many details. Like I said, I'm trying to keep everything here quick and try to catch every subject matter. But the answer is, could the Zodiac be caught with current technology? For example, could they get his DNA from any correspondence that they have? The answer is, it's indeed a possibility, but it hasn't happened yet. Okay? And the basic insight into the case is they're trying to use everything they can to get his DNA off his previous correspondences, and then take his DNA and use genetic genealogy to back engineer his background, the family he came from, and who he might be. Okay, so the answer is can he be caught? Other cases that are similar like this that date back decades have been solved, so he technically could be caught. It hasn't happened yet though, and if you go to the internet and just type up the Zodiac, there's all sorts of websites, and they offer some updates on about how the DNA search is going. But to date, it hasn't happened. But other cases from that time frame have. So this one technically has some potential. And let me get a final screen on here. And let's see. I think I got everything in there. And let me get a final screen on here. So and there he is again. All right. Now, can he be identified? It remains to be unclear, but other cases from that time frame have. So this case has a potential to be revived, and he has the potential to be identified, and if he's alive today, even arrested. So, and again, if you heard about this case, hopefully I got a quick flashback here. If you haven't heard it, I'll just try to squeeze everything in here about the potential for him being caught and how other cases from that time frame have been finalized. And I guess that'll do it. And let me get a